Yeah, welcome to the launch. I'm the Chief Exec of Shield Safety and the Chief Exec of Safe to Trade. Safe to Trade is a global food safety programme. It's been operating now for a number of years, but it's been operating in the pre-launch phase. And this is the first launch, and we're better to do a launch than in Manchester, the home of some of the world's best hospitality venues. And as Tipali said, we've got Aidan Byrne here today, which is great, and has been involved in that. We've got John Parks, Jeffrey Podger doing speeches. I also published a paper at the beginning of this year looking at the impact of the consumer's perception of the food hygiene rating over periods of time. And that paper really showed about consumers didn't trust the food hygiene rating for the first 12 months. Once it's over the 12 months, they struggle, trust plummets. And that whole story about trust, you're going to hear from Mia Horton, who's going to talk to you about how trust is really important from her perspective. So that's me. Before I go, I do want to say a big thank you to Tipali, who also mentioned that she made the cake and she's hosting today. Thank you very much. Also, a big thank you to Andrea and the team for all of the effort that they put in today doing this regional launch. And a big thank you as well to all of our speakers for their expert insights, and a big thank you to you as well for attending today. So I hope you stay for some cake at the end. Thank you very much.
Mr. John Parks.
Thank you very much. I'm afraid before you get to the cake, you've got to listen to me. What I want to do now is I want to give you a bit of background and some brief context, or as Tipali advised me, very brief context to Safe to Trade. I want to highlight some of the key benefits for consumers, for the business themselves, and indeed for regulators, local and national, all of which are in the audience today. So, Safe to Trade, it's the first comprehensive food safety and hospitality standard for the catering and hospitality sector. Now, one of the drivers, or two of the drivers behind something like Safe to Trade is the challenge that the industry faces. Regulators are under huge pressure. Their resources are dropping, in the case of food standards, by about 40 to 45% over the last 15 years. In the case of food hygiene officers, by about 19%. So it's the most challenging time I can remember in a long career, and trust me, it has been a long career if you look at it. In the hospitality sector, of course, what we have there are also challenges. The changing nature of the industry and the increasing demands and different demands from the customers themselves. So, food and drink is critical to people's lives. In some cases, absolutely critical to their lives. Customers want to be, and they want to feel safe when they go into a food business establishment. They want to enjoy themselves. They want to be taken care of. Over 450,000 of the 600,000 businesses in the UK are restaurateurs and caterers. It's a dynamic industry with changing risks. You've got pop-ups, you've got street vendors, you've got online catering, you've got online delivery, and in the online space, that creates an anonymity between seller and buyer, a regulatory nightmare to deal with. Similarly, with the changing risks, what customers want, they know that you're having to deal with things like reducing your energy supply, reducing your cost, reducing your water consumption. But at the same time, they're looking at not only food hygiene, they're looking at labelling. They're looking at authenticity of the food. They want to make sure that menus and any statements you make about the food they're going to eat are correct. And they're increasingly concerned about allergens and whether they are safe to eat in your business, and indeed post-COVID. we know they're increasingly looking at the hygiene controls front of house. What hasn't changed in the industry is that businesses are responsible for food safety, for the safety of their customers. The penalties now are really huge since 2016, potentially subject to turnover, £1 million per offence, unless it goes up if, in the severity of the case, if you haven't been duly diligent. It can go down if you've taken mitigation and you've got good controls in place that sometimes accidents happen. Public confidence and trust, as we heard from the videos earlier, is absolutely crucial. It's one of the key indicators that the Food Standards Agency has continued to look at throughout its existence. Confident consumers who trust their food supply, who trust their outlets, purchase food from there and continue to do so. The good news is that the confidence and trust in the supply chain really in the UK has never been higher. Now, a couple of reasons for this are the regulators, national and local. In spite of the regulatory sort of resources issues and the constraints and challenges that they face, they're really doing some great work. The other reason is that industry, particularly manufacturers and processors, have had in place in the UK food assurance schemes, comprehensive safety assurance schemes like Red Tractor, Leaf, Lion Eggs, that have actually assured the safety of their product and made sure that there are independent checks. The UK basically are world leaders in this area. These schemes generate a huge amount of data that can be recycled into the sector and with regulators to know what's going on and what's going wrong. They're increasingly being recognised, as you heard from Geoffrey, by regulators in how they carry out their inspections, how frequent their interventions are, and the nature of those controls. But in spite of the larger sector being, as I said, restaurateurs and caterers, there's no assurance scheme until we cut this ribbon officially in the hospitality industry itself. Now, some of you will say, well, there's a food hygiene rating scheme. And indeed, I've got some skin in the game here. I helped develop and bring in the food hygiene rating scheme when at the Food Standards Agency. It's done a huge amount to give customers confidence in local businesses, give businesses confidence in their business. But what it doesn't do is it only covers hygiene. It doesn't cover the things now that are increasingly important to customers, to businesses here today, to your customers, to someone like me when I go into a food business. The public are increasingly concerned with what is in the food. Are the menus accurate? What's the front of house hygiene like? You don't want to go into a place post-COVID that you don't feel safe and comfortable in. They particularly want to know, is the labelling okay for things like organic, for vegan, for vegetarian? They don't want you to be taking risks with their decisions or their lives. So that's why, and that's a number of the reasons why you've got Safe to Trade. It's the first comprehensive food assurance scheme for the hospitality sector. It covers all legal requirements. You be a member of this scheme, be approved under this scheme, you will be a food hygiene rating 5. It complements that scheme. It doesn't compete with it. It overlays then on top of that checks for allergens, for labelling, for fraud, for front of house hygiene. It's been developed by industry experts. It's constantly updated, including by my Stakeholder Engagement Forum and the Standards Forum, which is chaired by Alec Kyriakides, to ensure that they're looking at the right risks, the risks that consumers want you to deal with. So the scheme is able to adapt. It sits on top of award-winning software It's got a logo that allows regulators and your customers to feed back what they've found and to see that you have gone the extra mile by seeing the Safe to Trade stickers. Annual audits, not every 2 years, every 3 years, every 4 years that you might get from a regulatory perspective, for good reason, I'm not being critical, for reasons of resources and priorities. Annually, checking that the business is there and having a monitoring scheme that means it's constantly the issues are constantly being addressed. It's primary authority assured, they're on the video link today by Milton Keynes, so that there can be a degree of legal certainty in terms of how you are dealing with issues. It provides a comprehensive due diligence defence in the case that things go wrong, and hopefully it avoids them going wrong in the first place. It creates data and insights that are increasingly coming through from the scheme that can be fed into industry, fed into regulators, where the risks are. And what we're seeing with the scheme is the risks are, as you probably would realise, they're on labelling issues, they're on allergen controls and the like, and indeed front of house. Hygiene and safety to some extent, is being taken care of by many businesses. And if you are assured and approved under this scheme, I think it should give the business, and indeed the regulator, confidence that it's operating safely. And for businesses in this hard-pressed time, it means that you, because you've got this behind you, can focus on what you want to do, which is give your customers an enjoyable and a safe experience. So I was going to make like I commend this to you, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say to you, this is a scheme that I have wanted to see in the UK for many, many years. And it's got all the robust governance behind it from people in the industry that are respected, from local regulators, national regulators, industry representatives, to make sure that it constantly does the job that we want it to do, which is to safeguard customers, protect businesses, and help inform regulators so that they can prioritise their enforcement in the right areas. That's it, thank you.
Welcome the highly esteemed Chair of the Safe Trade Governance Board, Mr. Geoffrey Potter.
Well, thank you for that section. I actually spend most of my time trying to live down my past, so I just find it rather upsetting when people start reminding me of what I can be blamed for in the past. But there we are. What I thought I'd do is, first of all, let me say I very much agree, John, with what you just said. I'm tempting John to say that I'm going to disagree with it all, but I absolutely agree with it. And you've already had the misfortune to hear me once. So I thought I'd talk a bit, just very briefly, about the Independent Governance Board, several of whose members are actually here today, and which, as you were saying, I actually chair. And the thing I think which is very interesting about the Independent Governance Board is, first of all, it is decidedly independent, and I think it's fair to say that the members are both very expert, but also extremely difficult and opinionated. I speak as the chairman, you understand. And I think this actually gives the scheme quite a guarantee of success, because we are also difficult and opinionated, we spend all our time trying to find fault with things. In fact, it's actually been extremely difficult to do this, because there has been a very high quality of initial thinking which has gone into the scheme. And also, every month we get reports on how the scheme is going. And again, we actually can see from the data very clearly that although, as in any organisation, you can get occasional difficulties, these are very quickly dealt with, very satisfactorily dealt with, and actually there is a very strong and loyal following outside for people who are members of this scheme. And I think this is a very great credit to particularly the people who work here, and I would just like to put that on record, that I'm sure you just find this all a complete nuisance, but actually, which of course what we're going to be, but actually, the quality of work I think which has gone into the devising scheme and which now goes into running it is, I think, very impressive. And I think it's important to make that point that nobody has actually in any way sparing of the amount of effort they put in, and a great deal of thought and careful, sensible thought has gone into how the scheme operates. And I think it's fair to say that that is absolutely what we all on the governance board intend to continue to see for the future, and I know that's equally what the colleagues here who work here have in mind as well. So it is a really good scheme, which I don't have a problem in recommending to anybody, quite the reverse, it is highly recommendable. And at the same time, I think it's also a practical scheme, which is very important. One of the things we all come across in any kind of safety scheme is people who know the theory, but whose ideas in practice are totally impracticable and often are ineffective and actually cost a great deal of unnecessary expenditure. This scheme is not like that, and we don't have any intention that it should become so, quite the reverse. So I think really all I wanted to say additionally today to what Alison said is that I think what we have here is a really good scheme, which has been really well thought out. It's a great credit, I think, to the colleagues here who have designed it. We have an extremely awkward independent governance board who are quite determined to keep looking at things critically, quite ready to spot errors. The fact that the company is very successful so far, there's no reason why we shouldn't do better in the future. But I think from the point of view of people who are in the scheme, and also from the point of view of regulators who are using the scheme, this is actually the best guarantee that we can give you. That actually it is a very good scheme, but we're not resting on our laurels. And we're all, I think, looking forward to seeing its further development in the future. Thank you very much.
Hello, Aidan. Take a seat. Take a seat. So you were talking to me earlier. You're really proud to be an ambassador, and you're excited about Safe to Trade. Can you give a little bit more of insight as to what it means to you?
I guess as a small independent restaurant, we need to be seen as being as transparent as physically possible, because our ambition is to get as many customers through the door as possible, so we're here this time next year. Safe to Trade, and no, don't get me wrong, I don't know it well as you guys, you know, being involved with it from conception, I'm quite new to it, so when almost as an outsider looking at it, I think to myself, do you know what, it's almost up there to receiving a industry accolade, because we as restaurateurs or chefs, you know, we use social media a lot, and you know, every time we get recognised with something, any accolade that comes along, we shout about it. Friends of mine recently just opened up a small cafe, got 5 scores on the doors, and straight away they're all over social media. And the reason for that is because we want to tell our public that we're all good. You know, we're good at what we do. We cook good food, so therefore we've got accolades. We run a sleek operation, therefore we've got our scores on the doors. And I think Safe to Trade is probably up there with sitting alongside that. But from a different point of view, obviously the accolades are awarded to you by individual organisations. You know, they obviously get the choice to whether you get recognised with that or not. And there's what I liken, almost liken Safe to Trade with is something completely different. So you either like it or loathe it, and I think the reason why you loathe it is because someone said something bad about you. I think I liken it to almost like TripAdvisor, because the opportunity for the public to actually leave their remarks and tell you what they believe in, and you know the downfalls or the positives that it brings to your business. Then, you know, I'm as a small independent operator, I'm super excited about being involved in Safe to Trade, not just as an ambassador, but bring them into my business.
Yeah. And you change your menu every month, don't you?
Yes.
So, and you're very farm to table, you explain the processes and how things are made. So what challenges come with changing your menu so often, and how does Safe to Trade sort of feed into that for you?
I guess, you know, it's not just about changing the menu. We change the menu because, again, we're trying to get customers to come back to us more than once a year as a special occasion. We're not in the city centre, around the provinces, so that's something that we've put ourselves into that position. And we, as a kitchen team, we also take our food to the tables. We talk to the customer through the whole process, why we've chosen to do this, the cooking process. So in its entirety, we've got a very transparent business, and it's the more I can make my customers feel comfortable and confident to come and eating with us. Then we've got customers who've been there 11 months. We've got customers on the 11th who are on the 11th menu, which is amazing. And so that's working. But having the Safe to Trade sticker or logo on throughout that journey, whether we put it on the booking portal so the customers can see it straight away, when it's on the front door, as and when they come in or leave, on the base of the menu, just to give people that confidence that we're not trying to wing anything. But what we're doing here is we genuinely believe in it. We genuinely want you to enjoy your experience.
And it feels like that's something you're already doing. So like you say, you have that transparency. You want to share the process with people, and you want to say, this is what we're cooking with. But at the same time, you feel like you want that accolade, because a lot of restaurateurs aren't doing that, aren't they?
I'm quite guilty about it.
It's like, I want it back.
Yes, that confidence for me to go to the customer and say, because one thing. Why I love TripAdvisor is because we're transparent and TripAdvisor's transparent. And we hopefully we've never had a bad review on TripAdvisor, and that's because we actually genuinely want. I run my business like people coming into my house. I wouldn't want you to come into my house and have a bad time or a bad experience.
Amazing. Thank you. I think that makes a lot of things very clear from the food business operator's perspective. Thank you. Can we give a round of applause to Amy?